Today is World Radio Day, and according to UNESCO, radio is a strong and powerful medium for celebrating humanity in all its diversity and constitutes a platform for democratic discourse. And in South Africa, listenership is consistently higher than the global average, and it is in fact increasing even more during the COVID-19 lockdowns of the past 2 years. We're joined now to discuss the significance of this day, especially to this country, by Mr. Mutseki Mabuya from Hope FM and seasoned broadcaster, Mr. Sydney Baloyi. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Mr. Baloyi, sir, let me start with you. Perhaps just take us back to a time when you remember hearing somebody that made a lasting impression on you and you said, because of this person, I want to get into radio.
Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to. Thank you, Dudu, for inviting me to this discussion. It's personally, it's quite a very moving subject, radio that is, because as you rightly asked, all of us do remember that very first time when the penny dropped and you felt that you are at the service of a platform without which you absolutely cannot do much. So I do have my own memories which go back quite a long way back, because even though radio has media in general has evolved in recent years as much as it has, radio has remained the most enduring platform for public discourse. So if I just cast my mind, back to the 70s when I obviously first fell in love with radio because of the on-air personalities of the time. The impression that they made to me, it's still as strong today as it was then.
Mr. Mutseki Mabuya is with Hope FM. He's the program manager, station manager there. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Mr. Baloyi speaks of the evolution of radio. How has it evolved according to your observation, I think specifically in South Africa?
Well, thanks, Ms. Dudu. Good afternoon to the viewers as well. I think that the numbers are speaking for themselves, that at least for us as a country, our numbers are still good. And it means as a country, we have been able to move and adjust and be able to accommodate the latest platforms that are competing with radio. A lot of people are saying radio would die. I think 5 years ago, there was speculation that the next 5 years it could have been now. Radio would be dead by now, or numbers would have literally dropped. But I can assure you that at least for the next 5, if not 10 years again, radio will still be a friend to the millions of South Africans. And I think for me, for 3 reasons. It's because radio has been able to remain the trusted platform for the millions of the listeners in the country. But also I think radio has been able to make it easy to connect with their social media platform. I mean, if you listen to radio generally, it's easy to connect and bring in the content from social media, which is immediate at some point on radio platform as opposed to television, for example. So I think for me, radio will not die anytime soon. Technology can come in, different platforms can be introduced, but radio will remain at least for the next 20 years. I want to put my head on the block for that.
Mr. Baloyi, you're not only just a broadcaster, right? So you produce and you create content. So when we talk about being well-rounded on this platform, how important is that, especially for the offering that you will give to your listeners?
Yeah. Obviously, what makes for a broadcaster such as myself and my colleagues, there's a huge task that's placed on our shoulders, in that over the years, the patterns and the trends have shown that people look at radio as a place or a platform from which they can only get genuine information. So the believability of radio as a platform, it's so deep that it places a huge burden on the shoulders of people like myself and my fellow colleagues to obviously have to, step up and be as good as people expect us to be. Because once they hear anything that has been disseminated through our voices, they take it as gospel truth. And of course, it is very important for a broadcaster to be well-rounded. You need a broadcaster that has a passion for a lot of things that people depend on, which is why broadcasters have to be, readers. They have to be people who, at least at every given point, have something that they are reading, because information is always at the fingertips of, the books and the source of information that we rely on.
Mr. Mabuya, as we talk about what makes for a broadcaster, it's not just the voice that you hear, right? So there's plenty other people in the background. So if you are lucky, you will be one of those very few people that shoot straight to the top. But for many other people, they'll tell you, I started off running the desk, or I started off producing for so-and-so, or I started off on a community radio station. As a community radio station, what is it that you look out for in talent, if you will?
Well, interestingly enough, if many are saying I started as a producer, I always say to my colleagues, I actually started as a guy who walked in at the Voice of Tembisa, standing at the window. I'm sure Sydney will agree with me, that feeling of just literally standing at the window, checking out the next presenter who is on air, trying to send your passion just through by witnessing when somebody is actually executing their work. I think for me, what we look out for one to cut it for radio, it's two things for me. One, it's the passion for the medium, one, but two, as Ndate has said, one has to be somebody who reads a lot, be able to think on your fingers. Radio, it's competing with social media. Radio now, it's competing with television, as it has always been. And information, it's no longer like before, when radio was the sole platform to provide information. So for one to cut it for me, you have to be somebody who is an all-rounder in as far as information is concerned, but also be able to go beyond the current issues that are happening, whether be in the country or be in sports, but be able to be that one person who can be multi-interested in subjects. You've got broadcasters who are solely interested in football. You give them something else, they don't practice. So radio is more challenging, because for you to really cut it, be able to go beyond what could be just one subject for you as an individual, be able to understand that radio is not about you, but radio is about the next person who is tuning in.
We do hope staples that never disappear, story times, especially on radio, whether you're listening to Ikwala Kwala or Ukhozi FM. A lot of people really love that. So, Mr. Baloyi, just to close up the conversation, Mr. Mabuya speaks of being able to think on your feet when you are on radio. So, Kalanga, Baloyi, ikombela kuri uyiparela interview lay with a quick link.
So I can see the swamina hinkwenu ka n'wina mi nga ku langutiseni ka xiyanimoya lexa television. Ma swi tiva ku television la Afrika-Dzonga I xilo lexi nga humelela hi lembe ra 1976. Leswi vulaka ku vutomi bya hina maAfrika-Dzonga kusukela khale wa khaleni a hi langutisa ntsena radio ku ri yona ngula leyi nga ta hi tisela vutivi lebyi hi nga na byona namuntlha la Afrika-Dzonga. Hi ndlela leyo ni ngo salani kahle.
Kalanga, Baloyi, Ikensile, Sydney Baloyi, seasoned broadcaster, and you see why, as well as Hope FM's Motseki. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this afternoon.